Time for our panel discussion. Drew Edwards from UTSports.com is with us, along with Pat Ryan from the Vol Network, and joined by Tennessee offensive line coach Harry Hiestand. Harry, congratulations on a big win over Cincinnati.
Thanks, Bob. Appreciate it.
Talking a little about your offensive line. Now, everybody's talking about all the wide receivers making the catches and Bray throwing it. They got to have time to throw it, and your guys did a pretty good job.
Yeah, they had a good week of preparation. I think that's what really was the key today, and they did a good job working to finish blocks so he could get the ball off.
You had a couple of big defensive linemen on Cincinnati. I mean, they had a pretty good front, didn't they?
Yeah, they had some good rushers. They had some good strength inside. They had 99 on the outside. Was a good, relentless rusher that makes you play your best.
One of the things, kind of a theme in the post game, especially with the receivers, was talking about practice. They said, just the comfort that they've gotten and sort of that they're used to doing these things in practice, and it really seems to carry over on the field. You talk just a little bit about kind of instilling that philosophy in practice and the things that you're trying to get across to your guys on the practice field.
Yeah, and Coach Dooley does a great job with our practice organization and puts our team in a bunch of situations where they got to be at their best, mixing in time against our defense, our defense running their stuff, time against the scout team. So we have a nice balance where they get challenged, every day in a lot of different ways, which is really important.
Coach, everybody talks, when you talk about offensive line, everybody says they think run the football. Today we had some success running the football, but what I look at as an old quarterback is that our quarterback didn't even get touched today. I mean, not even close. He rolled out a few times, get away from some pressure, but when you throw the football that many times against a quality team like Cincinnati and don't get touched, that tells me my offensive line is doing the job.
Yeah, you got a good point. I mean, the guys, I think, really understand the importance of protecting Tyler and that he's at his best, and like any quarterback, when you got good protection. But they also understand that he's a talented player and that we got to work extra hard to keep people off him.
Ran the ball better against Cincinnati a little bit too, and it seemed like the offensive line came off the ball a little bit. Were you pleased with that?
It was better. It's a process. The whole thing's a process with these guys, and we're chipping away at it. I don't think we're ever satisfied, but there was improvement.
When you look to at the stops there, a couple of fourth down stops and some big plays defensively that got you guys the ball back, how much does that fire up your guys? I mean, they've been in that situation on the other side. How anxious are those guys to get back on the field after a big stop like that?
Yeah, no question. The players feed off of those kinds of plays, the special teams plays, the blocked field goal, the onside kick, a big stop by our defense. That juices your whole team.
Is it a difference when it's a short yardage situation, Coach? I mean, because your guys, especially from an offensive line standpoint, I mean, that's a spot where you kind of make your money in those situations. I mean, is that one where you specifically get that short yardage stop that it gets your guys even that more amped to go out on the field?
There's no question. It's such a big play by the defense that it does. It makes it, and they know how hard those situations are for both sides. And when our defense steps up like that, it certainly provides some juice for us.
And if Tyler's smart, he's going to take his offensive line out to dinner this week. Because he got great protection. Coach, you've got a young offensive line. It's just a learning process, and you've got to be patient with these guys, don't you? I mean, they're going to get better, and they're going to do things kind of at their own pace, but you really can't force it, can you?
It is. It's a process. I think patience is not something I'm real good at, but I think what I appreciate right now is their attention to trying to do what we're asking them to do, and as long as they're trying to do it and they're listening and thinking about the things that we're trying to teach them and the fundamentals that we're trying to improve and making an effort towards it, then you can be a little more patient.
You talk about this group, they're young, but they've got a lot of playing time last year. This week you guys go down to Florida, a tough place to communicate. What are some of the issues that you guys will face just in terms of operating in that environment?
Yeah, some of them have a lot of playing time, but 5 or 6 games. I don't know if I'd consider that a lot of playing time in this league.
That's true.
Juwan obviously made it through all the games in Dallas, but besides that, we got a new left guard, and James is about 4 or 5 games at center, and Zach is about 5 at right guard. So, we've been in some tough environments, but they don't have a lot of experience doing that. So they're going to have to really be on their toes and be sharp, and their communication's so critical in the noise down there. They got to be able to communicate regardless of how loud it gets and make sure we're on the right guys.
you know, one of the things you have the luxury is Alex Bullard, who comes the transfer from Notre Dame. So he can play all three offensive spots, and of course he shifted out to tackle when Dallas Thomas got hurt. What's it like to have? I mean, you try and teach the guys to play multiple positions, and it paid off for you in this game, and it might pay off later on in the season too.
You know, and Alex had to play tackle when Juwan was out a little bit in the spring, so he spent a couple weeks at tackle this past spring when Juwan had mono. So that was that ended up being beneficial because we needed to use him today. Until we get some of our younger players like Antonio Richardson up to speed, he's going to have to play multiple positions.
But that's got to be a really tough transition to move from center. You know, you had him playing a lot of center out to tackle. I mean, that's a whole different animal in a position, don't you think?
Yeah, it really is. And the progression of it was in the spring he played tackle. Training camp he came back and played center, and then he went to left guard about 2 weeks into training
now
camp.
He's going to play wide receiver next week.
So yeah, he may be a tight end. So.
But let's talk about James Stone, though. I mean, he could play guard as well, too.
Yeah.
I mean, you try and get these guys to play the different positions just in case. The old philosophy, you've said you want to have your best 5 guys out there.
Yeah, we need to have our best 5 on the field, and we do have some flexibility with some of these guys to play multiple positions.
Also, I think the other challenge is to make sure that these, as Pat said, there's so many different things to pick up, the blitz stunts and those things. And for young guys, you have to be patient with them to make sure that, because they're going to make some mistakes, you got to let them play through it.
And it's part of the learning curve, and you're always wanting more. And as long as they do too, as long as they're not satisfied with the excuse that I'm a young player, I can make that mistake. As long as they don't take that as it's okay, I can learn from it and try not to make it again, because that's the biggest thing with mistakes. As long as we learn from them and don't repeat them, and maybe the other players learn from the other guys, seeing the other guys foul something up, then we can make progress.
Coach, we appreciate your time tonight. Congratulations on the win against Cincinnati. We'll see you next week against Florida.
Thank you.
Harry
Thanks,
Easton,
guys.
the Tennessee offensive line coach, with us. We'll come back. We'll talk about the Florida game next on the Derek Dooley Show.